Welcome to the Lights On podcast, featuring stories behind building and running successful hotel businesses. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Lights On podcast. I'm Kin Seo, CEO of Lights On and your host today. On this podcast, we share stories from across hospitality about building and growing hotel businesses. The episode is sponsored by Lights On. Lights On helps hotels grow revenue more consistently by managing price, distribution, and digital marketing together. We help hotels identify new revenue opportunities so they don't leave money on the table. We also run the full revenue and marketing operation so the team on the ground can stay focused on the guest experience. If your hotel needs more revenue growth, visit lightson.co to learn more. My guest today, super famous on the island, Dan Wacksman, founder and CEO of Sassato LLC and Hawaii Hotel Hui, a platform for hoteliers in Hawaii. Dan spent 12 years as a senior vice president of marketing and distribution at Outrigger Hotels and Resorts. And before that, ran a big operations across Asia. He actually spent over a decade in Asia running different travel companies. He now consults with independent hotels on commercial strategy, technology, and distribution. And of course, his latest project, Hawaii Hotel Hui, a platform for hoteliers in Hawaii, now reaching over 4,000 people across the islands. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hello, Ken. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you have such a long history in hospitality. So we're just going to do a little time machine back to where everything started. Back then, I think just from your website, you kind of started this world in hospitality from training people in Honolulu call center at cheaptickets.com. How does the feel just, from there all the way to now, at some point, you were in Asia managing, big companies, big corporations, 400 employees at some point. How does that, what is that evolvement like?
I think my career can be explained by a lot of lucky accidents and coincidences. And one was out of college, I decided to move to Japan for a while, and I lived there for a few years. And I wanted to move somewhere else after spending some time in Japan, and I decided to come to Hawaii. And my background in Japan was I was doing a lot of training and development. So I got a job training and training new staff to sell air tickets. And it was interesting. They were using native Sabre back in the day, not even a web GUI at that time. And I was lucky enough that was right at the start of the internet revolution. And we put an internet front end on our website, and things just kind of blew up from there. And because I was young, because I was ambitious, because I was interested, I learned a lot about the website of the business. And from that point on, I kind of became the web guy. And that was sort of a lucky a break for me. And from there, our company got acquired by a big mainland company, and they moved me out into my next roles from there.
Wow. So kind of from there, your responsibility kind of really just kept growing from there. Was there a moment you realized you could handle the scale of responsibility?
The scale of, sorry?
The responsibility, just, from getting into the industry over time, taking more, and to a point, just the more people you manage, I think just that scale of responsibility kind of like really changed dramatically. Is it the moment that you realized you could handle that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a single thing that I can handle it because it was sort of gradual. When I was in Japan, I started by just being an individual contributor. Then I managed a small team, then a larger team, and eventually I managed a region. So it sort of just compounded, and I never stopped to think about, was this scaling, and can I handle the scaling? I think probably from a management perspective, my biggest challenge was managing in different cultures. And figuring out how to work with people, and whether it be mainland China, Japan, or even here in Hawaii, we have a unique culture here. It's not like the rest of the continental U.S. So you have to learn how to adapt to that. To me, that was more difficult than sort of the overall how do you manage kind of people, but managing in different environments.
Yeah, especially where we are in Hawaii, just with that diversity of culture, I think that really became an advantage for you. And just speaking of your time in Asia, I know you definitely spent lots of time in China. We kind of talked a few times about that. And when you were there, you were that's kind of before you being on the hotel operation side of things. You were more on the distribution OTA side, and you literally you build China's the third largest OTA back then. How does that time on the OTA side shaped how you think about distribution?
Yeah, well, I think I was most recently a hotel person, and now I've been, I guess, now if you add up all the years, we probably have 20 years on the hotel side of the business. But the previous 20 years before that was more in travel tech, travel distribution, in that area. So, and I think they all meld really well together. And uh, I think just understanding how travel is booked, all of the pipes that are necessary to be able to make those bookings, and how to optimize that is extremely important. No matter what side of the business you're on, you really need to understand that. And I was lucky enough to be involved in the early days of the OTA to see them, from when they were tiny to these huge companies that are really pushing through a lot of hotel bookings and travel bookings. And I can understand, how they developed and why they developed, and also how to manage your own business to have them be an asset and not a detriment. A lot of people, look at OTAs, and to be honest, I was known as the big anti-OTA guy. I would speak at conferences and talk about all the bad things the OTA were doing. But the reality of it is they could be a really good partner. You just need to manage it appropriately. Sometimes they could be not a great partner, and then you need to call them out on that. But for the most part, if you manage it in the right way, it's an important distribution channel for all hotels.
Yeah, well, and it's funny you mentioned that you were very anti-OTA, which we all know it is a constant conversations, just have been that like friendly relationship between hotels and OTAs, right? And I actually I saw an article and actually a speak that you did, it was a while back. I want to see if that's still relevant today. You did this presentation called "Do OTA Sucks," right? You actually like you spend lots of time talking about the OTAs and how to work with them, how to optimize it. That's always that frenemy relationship, right? So with all these times, nowadays, because I think that speech was like a few years ago. Do you how do you think about that relationship right now? Then
Well,
how does hotel constantly, just getting wrong, like not getting the best out of the frenemies?
yeah. Well, my answer now is the same answer it was back then. So I wanted to get people's attention. So I titled it, my first slide was "Do OTAs Suck?" And it got people's attention, right? And they weren't looking at their phones. They were looking at what's this guy going to say, right? So my answer at the end was it depends. They can suck or they can be very, very good for you. And if you are managing them well and you're not giving them better rates than you have on your own website, and you're not participating in deals that undercut your own website or your other partners, then that's a good situation, right? On the other hand, on the OTA side, when they're discounting your rates lower than you're offering, that's not a good relationship either, right? So I think it needs to be balanced, and they could be good partners. But the one thing I always, it's a mantra, and it's amazing that I still need to say it. 10, 20 years later, never give an OTA a better rate than you have on your direct channels. Yet you constantly find people doing that, and that's when it's not that's when you're not using it the way you should use it.
Yeah. And why is it so hard to get it right? Because I think, in theory, everything you mentioned, people, won't disagree. But, we still see a lot of these great parity problems that constantly things that hoteliers couldn't get it right. What do you see? Like, is there a common pattern that you saw that can be fixed?
Yeah, I wish there was an easy answer to that. I mean, there are all sorts of parity violations that happen. More often than not, it's a bad actor using a net or opaque rate and using that rate in a way that they're not supposed to. And often it's 3 layers deep. So the only way to find out who's actually behind that rate is to book it and then see how it comes into your system, right? And there are tools now that enable you to get a little bit deeper than that, but it's still not as easy as it should be. Um, that's straight undercutting. And there's also discounted undercutting, which I think uh, it always drove me nuts, especially with even with the good players, not the bad player OTAs, but with the Expedias and the Booking.com, they'll do self-funded discounts, right? 20% off on this rate. Yet if you do it on your own website, you get a parity violation. So it's tough, and you gotta figure out when you need to push back, when you need to do deep research to find out who's undercutting you. But it's still not easy. You would think by now, with all these great tools and AI, that it would be easy to solve for. But our disparate distribution systems and the downstream users of your rates, it's very hard to unravel sometimes.
Yeah. And especially in our market in Hawaii right now, it's fascinating to see like nothing as such black and white. Uh, a good example here is to make OTA really works for you, especially on the islands here. OTAs market managers tend to keep very close relationships with the hotel operators, so much more than what I would be seeing in the mainland, right? So thinking about from the shoe of a hotel operator, like what does a healthy OTA relationship actually look like in practice? And obviously it could be different from what we have here on the island in Hawaii versus in the mainland. Um, is there like a good practice or pattern that people should follow?
I mean, OTAs have amazing reach, right? They can, especially if you're a smaller brand or an independent brand, you're never going to get the reach that they get, right? People are coming into that funnel who've never heard of you before. So you need to optimize that, and you need to work hard, make sure that your displays are your images and your content is all up to date. I think both Booking and Expedia have scores that they give you of your content. You want to make sure that your content is absolutely great. You want to make sure that you're as high up as you can be without paying for it. Sometimes you have to pay for it, but as high up in the sort art as you can get by doing the things you do naturally, like optimizing the content. And then you need to accept the fact that a lot of people are going to come in through that channel. But what I think is extremely important is, and it used to be something I used to tell my team, is I am happy to get OTA bookings as long as the second time they book me, it's direct. They should never go back to the OTA a second time once we've built a relationship with them, right? What does that mean? When the OTAs book you, they don't give you their email address. They don't give you their information. You can't market to them. But when they come to that front desk, you need to be getting that information from them. You need to build that direct relationship with them so that the next time they're coming to your destination, that you're top of mind, that you're in their email inbox, that that you're sending them cool content about the destination that builds that relationship over time. Maybe that they've liked you or followed you on social media. Those are the things we need to do. And there's no reason the second booking should be through Expedia. And sometimes it is because you haven't built that relationship, or sometimes it is because they're offering lower or better rates than you, which is what we talked about earlier.
I see. Any good practice just at the front desk level? Just making sure like aggressively how hotel operations can make sure that the second booking should happen through direct.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a collaboration between operations and marketing in order to ensure that they're able to collect their information at the front desk easily. All right, you don't want to increase check-in time. You don't want to make it more difficult for the front desk than it already is. They should have the tools needed to quickly collect that information and get the opt-in. And sometimes it's things like, hey, if you opt in, there's a free drink, or you could create things around it that would make it people more likely to opt in when they get to the front desk.
That makes sense. And It's great that you mentioned the collaboration. It's not just the marketing and the operation, the front desk side of things, right? Because especially in bigger hotel operations, the practice of revenue management also exists, and that comes into the mix. And as we all know, these different disciplines, they often operate in silos. So how do you see that as a challenge, and just the way big hotel, small hotel, when they have different disciplines, and make sure that people actually talk to each other to break that silos?
Yeah, I've been in the industry a long time, and I've been hearing the silo conversation for just as long. I think it's getting better, right? There's this push to have commercial strategy where all of these people sit in the same room and talk to each other. They report to the same people. I think the most important thing is that they have aligned KPIs, because if one KPI conflicts with another KPI, then you have problems. So as long as everybody is sort of rowing in the same direction, it makes sense. But if my job is just to to get direct bookings, I don't care about rate, right? If my bit rate is only to get rate, then maybe I don't care about channel, right? There are all sorts of things that you need to think about when you're doing this, and I think having aligned KPIs is probably the key thing that needs to be done.
Mhm. Do you think those KPIs have a natural hierarchy of priority? Because what you just mentioned, right? Exactly, we run into very often when we run revenue and marketing together for our clients, right? Like marketing, they have that directive of increasing the direct share, which sometimes doesn't align with the revenue, the overall top line goal. Let's get more business. That could mean shifting more business to OTA, getting into our whole OTA frenemy conversation just now. Those, naturally are in conflict from time to time, which exactly what you just mentioned. Like, how would you unwind that to make sure, those KPIs actually align?
Yeah, I think ultimately you go to, well, we're not there yet as an industry, and there's all sorts of accounting issues that come into play as well. Uh, but ultimately it's net operating income that you want to look at, right? But like I said, we're not there yet. So some companies are getting closer to that, and you have to see how your KPIs feed into that, and if they don't, then maybe it's wrong. But I'll give you an example of how, like, sometimes we're set up in weird ways that make us act in ways that we are probably maybe not all that rational. So, for example, from an accounting perspective, marketing dollars is marketing dollars, right? When you do a marketing campaign, it comes out of that bucket. When you commission an agent, and that could be an OTA, that could be a meta search, when you commission them, it comes out of the commission line. The way that has historically been viewed is your marketing budget is finite, but your commission budget is infinite, because it doesn't matter. It's based on revenue coming in, and the percentage that goes off, and then you're paying for that revenue, right? So I've seen people shift money into commissionable stuff rather than marketing because they didn't have the marketing budget to do it, or so it's often not thought about holistically, but how it looks when you look at a spreadsheet.
Gotcha. And I bet, when you have, your consulting engagements, hoteliers, operators don't come to you with that, because many times they don't even know where the problem exists, right? So like, do you, it's part of like your process of engagement, like how would you walk an operators or a hotel owners as a manager, like kind of to walk through that process to find out the problem, right? Because I think it all comes down to like devil's always in the detail. Like
Yep.
unless you
Yep.
get to that level of detail, you wouldn't see where, you know, a revenue leakage could be, or where there will be untapped revenue opportunities. Like how would you walk them through your process to identify those problems accurately?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one, and it depends on how well they are at tracking things, right? So you go into some hotels and they can't even tell you their channel mix, right? But to me, one of the first
So
things
true.
to look at is your channel mix, then the revenue, and then the ADR. and to see which are the most valuable channels. But then there's a missing piece there, because when you look at, for example, the OTA channel, you need to really break that up into two parts. One is net rate, and the other is commissionable. Because a commissionable rate, when you're looking at it, at the top level, it looks like it's a great rate, but it hasn't backed out the commission yet. So you really need to look at things holistically, and that's where it needs. You really need to work with revenue management, your accounting team, to make sure that everything lines up. But you're right, the devil's in the detail. I'll give you an example of like a simplistic version of that. We talk about ROAS, right? Return on ad spend. And you would go to an executive meeting, and the people who are not marketers would look at it and say, okay, we have a 21 ROAS. Let's put all our money in that, right? And this one has let's say a 5-to-1 ROAS. Let's kill that. But the 20-to-1 ROAS might be brand. You're just doing buying brand terms. So you're helping people who are already looking for you find you, right? So of course that's going to have a high ROAS. In fact, you might even kill that whole marketing line, because it may not be a good use of money, because those people probably would find you anyway. And we can argue about that point, right? Because you probably do want to put some in brand marketing. But of course it's going to have a higher ROAS, whereas the 5-to-1 ROAS might be brand new customer. You are not even in the consideration set until you bought that ad, right? That's a much more valuable customer. Well, I don't say valuable, because I think the other customer is not incremental.
Yeah.
This is net new. This is an incremental customer. So, so people always say, okay, let's go with the highest ROAS, but the highest ROAS might not be the best way to do it, right? So the devil, as to your point, the devil's always in the details. And sometimes that's hard to explain to people, why you might want to do a campaign with a lower ROAS than one with a higher ROAS.
Yeah. This is just so golden, because everything, is not just marketing, not just hotels, right? I think just everything that involves sales, there's a funnel, right? How to, walk your prospective customers from the top of the funnel all the way to the bottom, right? Obviously, as you get closer to the bottom of the funnel, people know more about you as a brand, as a property, like they're more likely to book and convert. That gets to the higher return on aspect that you just mentioned, versus that incremental, like how can you gonna now widen your net, getting those incremental businesses, right? Yeah, I think to your point, that was in the detail. Just any numbers in the industry, right? Once you do that further breakdown, there's always more stories to it. Yeah. So switching gear a little bit, just talking about your consulting business, I actually find it the name of the consulting business, Sassato, fascinating, because Sassato, I don't know, like a good translation. I mean, it's a Japanese word for like close to just get it done.
Yeah, yeah. So when I started the company, I came up with a bunch of different names, and none of the URLs are available, right? As you'd expect. But I wanted to position it as my company gives you a running start, meaning I'm not the type of person, or my company's not the type of company that has to come in and spend 2 weeks doing discovery. I can just jump in and start figuring things out and helping you get it done. So ultimately, I wanted it to be, if you said it colloquially, I want people to say, my company gets shit done, right? We do it quickly, we do it efficiently, we understand the business, we don't need to come in and learn about it. And I couldn't find anything. And then I remembered there's the word that I heard often in Japan, which is Sassato, which means it's often said to children and other people, just hurry up, just do it, just get it done. And I was like, I wonder if that URL is available. And it was still available. So I booked it, and that's become our company name ever since.
Yeah, it's such a big contrarian concept in this industry, right? Because what we often find is decision making. It could be slow in this industry, right? What do you think are the common reasons that operators or decision makers in this industry had a hard time making decision quick?
Yeah, I think it's very common, and it's not just our industry. Maybe it's a little bit worse in our industry, but it's not just our industry. Technology, business, process changes quickly, right? And you need to reassess and do things differently. And you take somebody, probably your smartest person on the team, or your most capable person in that area, and you ask them to add that onto their plate. So they're already at 120%. And you say, okay, now I also want you to assess a new website, a new booking engine, a new PMS, a new CRS. And this person already has a full-time plus day job where they're doing a great job, and they've been tasked to do that. So what happens is it becomes, part of their job, but not their full-time job to get that done. So it ends up taking much longer than you would want it. It takes a decision process to take much longer because they haven't had a chance to do the full due diligence on it. And it's interesting. When I started consulting, to be honest, my expectation is I'd be doing a lot of marketing because that was really the area I was focused on. I'd say marketing and distribution. But what people kept coming to me for was technology. And the reason why is because they couldn't make a decision. They couldn't change. And the reason why is they didn't have a process. They didn't have a right way to assess it. And what I do in my practice is I'll come in and I'll help you figure out the process. Or I come in with an already pre-built process that we've used dozens of times and that works. And we help you all the way through the process and take it off your plate to the point where all you need to do is sit in on the pitches, listen, review the documents that they sent over, and I help guide you to a decision, rather than you having to do all of that work. And I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients at the onset say, you know what, we don't want to spend that much money doing the process, so we're going to do it in-house. And then 6 months later, they come back to me and they say, okay, we need somebody to help us push us through the finish line. 6 months later, in reality, had they brought in somebody who specializes in it, they might have already have implemented the new system instead of being, still another 6 months out probably from implementing it. So, that's what I see as the big issue is overloading team members. And their team members can do it. 9 times out of 10, they're good, capable people who could absolutely do it. But rarely does their boss say, okay, we're taking everything off your plate right now, and we want you to focus on that. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, which is tough because it's how when technology comes in and almost being the centerpiece of our operations, and just the fact that technology, it just seems like so foreign. It's like something from another industry. So I think hospitality as an industry, we tend we don't have the right training to really think about when it comes to selection of technology, implementing that. It could be a completely different practice from delivering a great guest experience. So that naturally creates that a gap of domain knowledge, right? So I think you're definitely coming and filling in a right knowledge gap in this industry for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing is when you work with external people who are industry people, and it's interesting because a lot of times, and I know you at Lights On, you guys focus on hotels. I've hired agencies that don't focus on hotels, and you spend weeks explaining to them what ADR is, what ALOS is, what channels are, what OTAs are, what channel managers are. That's a heavy lift, right? But if you bring in somebody who already has that knowledge, it just saves you so much time.
Yeah. And especially with the era of AI right now, when the cost of technology implementation is getting lower and lower, I think really what separates us from others is really knowing the domain knowledge. I think just in the next era, right, the people who is going to win is going to be people who have multi-discipline kind of knowledge, so that they can really cross apply this knowledge from one industry to another. I think those are going to be key for success in our new AI era. Yeah. So it's funny how your consulting business start moving towards to getting to technology implementation, selection, and things like that. What is the biggest technology mistake that you see hotel operators are making right now? And obviously more towards especially the smaller independent boutique operators who don't have a huge team thinking about these kind of question or problems for them.
Yeah, I would say probably the single biggest issue is not taking a a systematic approach. And I'm not sure I'm saying that in the right way, but basically looking at your entire tech stack and making the right decision as a whole, instead of taking a piecemeal approach. And it's hard because you're usually not starting from scratch, right? But what happens is you may have systems already in place, and you start adding systems on top of that, and then you look back, and then you have you have a PMS, you have a CRS, you have a channel manager, you have a CRM, you have urgency tools on top of it. You have all these other tools that sit on top of all your other systems, and you have integration issues and all sorts of things that come about. So I just think every once in a while you need to take a good hard look at your tech stack and say, is this the right tech stack? And I can't tell you how many times I've done a audit on a tech stack. And when I talk about tech stack, I'm more talking the commercial tech stack.
Yep.
I'm not talking about servers and things like that, or Wi-Fi, or I'm talking about the systems I just rattled off, really. That I go in and I say, okay, give me a list of all your systems. First of all, that often takes a couple of weeks because nobody in their company has a list of all their systems. The next question is, let me see all the contracts. Again, couple of weeks. Nobody knows where all the contracts are. 9 times out of 10, they have to get some of them from the vendors and say, can you send me our contract? And then when I look, there's 2 things I look at. One is, what are they utilizing it for, and what value are they getting out of it? And so many times I found that they have contracts that they signed years ago that they're paying for, that they're not even using any of the applications that they're paying for. And then another aspect you see is they have overlapping functionality. So they bought an urgency tool, let's say, and when I say urgency tool, it's something that says, it's an overlay that says you have 2 hours to book, or 10 other people looking at something that makes people want, feel like there's an urgency that they need to book, right? So I'm just using that as an example. But their booking engine also already has a built-in one, right? And maybe the one that they bought is better. I don't know, but you need to assess, right? Do we need 2? And can we get rid of this one and the cost of that one? And the answer may be, this is much better because it does X, Y, Z, which is fine. But you have that rationalization there, right? Or the answer may be, you know what? We get 90% out of the box and we're already paying for it, so we don't need this anymore. So that's a big mistake. Another big mistake is not paying attention to contract end dates. I've seen contracts that roll over to 3-year terms. And if you don't give the 90-day notice in the contract, they're going to hold you to it. Or they're going to make you buy it out. So, keep your eye on when those contracts expire. And also, there may be an opportunity, even if you like it, there may be an opportunity to renegotiate it. Has your volume increased? Maybe you can bring down the if it's transaction based, bring down the transaction cost. If it's a SaaS model, maybe you can reduce the monthly on it. So, you want to stay on top of it. And again, it goes back to the thing of having, there's an interesting thing that happened, in the past 10, 15 years. Used to be IT controlled all of the technology, and all the decisions were made there. And there was one person who was on the hook to check everything. But we moved away from that, and everything is cloud-based. Everything is SaaS-based, right? So what happens is, as a marketer, I can make my own technology decision. As a revenue manager, I can make my own technology decision. As a finance person, I can make my own technology decision without necessarily needing to bring in IT or them checking it or looking at it. So, having a central point, at least somebody who understands everything that's going on, is a good thing. But what's happened now is you have all these departments buying what they think they need, not understanding potential connectivity, not understanding that the HR system that HR bought does the same thing that the marketing system that you bought does, right? So you miss out on all of that.
Yeah, there's just so much value for just that one answer. Like, I think every hotelier is today, like, one action that you can take on immediately right now after listening to this podcast. Go audit your system, go audit your technology stack, go audit all the contracts. Like, I bet probably 7 out of 10 times, someone can really find a cost savings from there. And that's just for the cost savings, right? Do you have examples on when the stack is not aligned, there's the cost leakage. Are there any revenue leakage that could happen from a wrong tech stack as well?
Sure. I mean, the integrations is the big thing, right? Failure to effectively integrate two-way integrations to make sure everything's synced up could lead to, channels not working, important channels not working. It can lead to wrong rates going out. It could lead to all sorts of issues. So I think, having really tight integrations and understanding them is extremely important as well.
Yeah. They're just so much value just from that comment. That part's so good. So just changing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that I haven't done one of these in a while, but I used to tell hotels that, look, I'll come in, I'll do it two ways. I'll charge you a flat fee and help you do all of this and assess it, or give me 10% of the savings that I find in a year for a year, or pay me nothing, right? Everybody said, no, I don't want to do it because they're afraid I'm going to find too much. And I almost always, and actually in every case I've ever done it, I've covered my costs and then some. And had I done the 10% deal, my bank account would be a lot healthier today.
Hey, it's still a good 10x return, for most of folks out there. So, wow. So switching gear a little bit. So from consulting, thinking about technology stack, your latest project, Hawaii Hotel Hui, right? Obviously now it's a platform, lots of golden information for hoteliers, especially in Hawaii right now. Like, it's a completely different thing. It's a completely different venture. How did you decide to build that aside from doing all the engagement at Sassato?
Yeah, again, I talk about being in the right place at the right time and maybe just doing things that tend to work out. But this one was really my idea behind the newsletter was I just wanted to have a newsletter to get in front of the Hawaii hotel community, especially my network, in order to really be a lead gen tool for my consulting business. And the idea was, as a consultant, people need you when they need you. And when they need you, they don't remember you. So my idea was if I was in their inbox every month and they needed somebody to help with a tech audit or a new platform, they'd say, oh yeah, there's that guy, Dan, who does that newsletter, right? And I expected to reach 200 or 300 people max, so sort of my network and my extended network. And within a couple of months, I had a few thousand subscribers. At events I go to, people always come up and tell me how much they love the newsletter. And then about 6 months into it, I was doing once a month, unsolicited. Somebody, a tech company, came up to me and said, "Hey, would you be open to having like sponsors in it?" And I didn't even think about it. And that's when sort of light bulb went off that maybe this could be a little bit bigger than just a simple lead gen tool. So I sort of pivoted a little bit away from being a lead gen tool to being its own standalone newsletter. And we went from once a month to twice a month. We created sponsorship packages, and it's been amazing because I tend to be a tech distribution bent, so I expected a lot of technology companies and other companies like that to sponsor, which they have. We've had Lights On. We've had other technology companies as well, PMSs like Stay in Touch and others be sponsors. But I had people I didn't expect, like Alana Beers and Burst, ABB. I didn't even know who they were when we started, but they're a national construction company, or maybe they're international, and they do a ton of work here in Hawaii, and they do great work. I had never heard of them, but they were interested in our audience, and just like I hadn't heard of them, a lot of our audience hadn't heard of them, and now they've been seen thousands of times through their sponsorship, both on a newsletter, on our website, and in our LinkedIn. So it's really grown to be a sponsorship platform, and now I'm looking to grow it. A platform that sponsors are eager to work on, but I want to grow it beyond that. And we've built a website, which Lights On has helped me with as well. And we built a website now, and we're trying to build it out more as a more diverse platform, and the newsletter being the core of it, but having other aspects as well. So, if I explain my current vision of what it will be, and who knows what it will be in 6 months, but my current vision is that will be a platform where Hawaii hotel and tourism people come to get information and answers. whether it be, what's going on in the space from a news perspective to, I need a new PMS. Who do I go to? I need a new website. Who do I go to? I'm looking for a development company to help me buy a property, and because we're building out that platform where we have all that information. So that would be the vision where hoteliers come to me, and on the other side where potential vendors and partners come to me who want to make their products and services known to the hotel community, the hotel and tourism community in Hawaii. So it's sort of that two-sided platform. It's super niche. It's Hawaii, and that's what what I want to do. I want to create this super Hawaii-centric platform. Everything out there, it tends to be more global oriented. It's geared towards everybody. I think we have a unique environment here in Hawaii, and I think we need a platform like this that speaks to our the way things are done here, and so that's the vision. But we're at this point, we're just having fun with it and trying different things and seeing what works. So more to come on that.
Yeah, for anyone in Hawaii or even companies out there who want to get into Hawaii, if you haven't, you should subscribe to the platform and the newsletter. We'll make sure to put a link in the show notes. And I think why people like your content so much is that just that, to your point, like the being local and being like genuine, right? Especially in the era of AI right now, we have all of these AI slop out there. I think people really feel like you're writing the local style that people know. Yeah, this is like you have to be like on the ground here, understand all the network, all the connections, all the relationships here to produce content like that. So and that part is what really become valuable when writing professionally becomes so easy, with ChatGPT and all that. So yeah, we'll make sure to put the show note, put the link in the show note if you haven't subscribed yet. Which honestly, I feel like every human being on the island in this industry is already subscribed to that. Kudos to you, Dan. Last question for you, just to close out the show. This year, past year has been a pretty rough years for Hawaii, like the tourism industry in general that people haven't seen since the pandemic, right? So demand is down. Like we have all these bigger box, the PE firms coming in, owning more hotels here. And then we obviously are on the tax of the government side of things. We are all getting higher tax and things like that. Like it feel like operating a hotel here, especially for independent owners, like it's just feeling squeezed at all angles. How would an owner like that? What does this person needs to get right in the next 2 years just to survive?
Yeah, I think it's got to put a little bit of perspective behind this as well. I was talking to a friend on the continent, and I was telling him things are a little tough here, and he tells, what do you mean? Like, tell me your numbers. I was like, well, we're at 79% occupancy and $322 ADR, and he almost fell off his chair. Almost every market in the United States would kill for those numbers. And we look at those as being bad numbers. And why are they bad? I mean, that's the perspective part of it, right? And why are they bad is because we're not seeing growth, right? We're seeing flatness, and we're not anywhere near our peak years, and our costs are going up substantially. That is a very, very big factor to it. So I think we're at 2.5% RevPAR growth or something like that, right? So it's essentially flat. But the costs are growing much higher than that, right? And I think that the national number is not as high as the Hawaii number, right? Because we have to have everything shipped in, and the costs are a lot more. Our union contracts with hotel employees are a lot richer than our counterparts on the mainland. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a reality, right? And so you have that balance of yeah, we're doing well, but we're not doing terrible, but our costs are growing faster than our revenues are growing. So it's an issue. So, cost control is obviously something that people need to look into. From a revenue standpoint, getting I'm going to say good revenue and bad revenue, but direct revenue that cost you less is going to be better, right? More is going to drop to the bottom line. And I think those are the areas that they need to concentrate on, and get their fair share of the market. I'm trying to think if there's any other pearls of wisdom in there, but I think I think it's going to be, it was interesting. There's always something, right? Last time I was moderating a panel, everybody was talking about the green shoots and things are starting to look good. And then, we bomb Iran, right? And so things change, right? Is that good for us? Is that bad for us? I don't know. In my last newsletter, I talked about the fact that you had the issues in Mexico, which, by the way, no tourist was hurt or killed in that. And then you had the issue in the Middle East now. And what tends to happen in situations like this, people want to stay home. And if you recall, we had, our best years were the revenge travel after COVID, when people still were a little leery to travel overseas. And we're the international destination that's still in the United States, right? So there's a potential opportunity there that we'll see more. But on the other hand, maybe costs go up and people's discretionary spending goes down. Who knows what's going to happen with all of that? But there's potential opportunity that we could grow even in a year that's tough. Get out there and market in the right way. Let people know, what we have to offer and the things that they're worried about. Again, you'd never want to capitalize on something terrible that's happened somewhere else, but it doesn't stop you from accentuating your positive points. We're in the United States. You don't need a passport. It's a safe destination. It's the most beautiful destination in the world. All of those things that we can go out and put our best foot forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, for all the wisdom. Where can people learn more about you?
So I have two websites. One is Sassato.com, Sassato.com, and you can find out about my consulting business there. And you can go to Hawaii Hotel Hui .com. And if you're watching this, hopefully you know what a Hui is. A Hui is a community or a group. It's HUI, and you'll put them in your notes. We go to HawaiiHotelHui.com. And again, the idea is to create a community, not just a website or a newsletter. And by the way, we have lots of great feedback that I include in the newsletter and in our LinkedIn as well. And you could subscribe there, look at previous issues there as well. So those are the two best ways.
Yep, we'll make sure those should be in our show notes. All right, Dan Wacksman, founder and CEO of Sassato and Hawaii Hotel Hui. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is great fun. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Lights On podcast. We'll see you again next time. And be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.